jump right into the agenda because we've got a very full day morning. Clay, I'm not sure. Oh, yep. Jeremy, did you want to introduce yourself to the group?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeremy Kinsman. I think I have met some of you previously because some of you may remember I worked in the NHTSA office of EMS from 2015 to 2019. I was there initially as a ASPPH Public Health Fellow and then transitioned into a federal staff position in the office of EMS. And during that time, I helped support kind of the administration of the NEMSIS program from our office at NHTSA. So I left for about 3.5, 4 years and have just returned to NHTSA. And I'm so going to be working with Eric Chaney to help continue to kind of administer the NEMSIS program from our end, and just really excited, feeling very fortunate and thankful to be back. And it's been really great. I had the opportunity to go out to the NEMSIS TAC last week and see all the great work that they've been doing over the past several years. And I know that state data managers and vendors and other folks have been integral to that kind of improvement and progression as well. So just again, really excited to be back. I'm looking forward to reconnecting with those of you who had a privilege of working with before. And for those of you who I have not met, looking forward to meeting you and working together. So thanks.
Thanks, Jeremy. And for another introduction, I will actually turn it over to Julianne real quick.
Yeah, it's exciting to have 2 introductions in the same call. Although she had a previous commitment this morning and isn't able to join us, we did want to make it official that the newest member of the Technical Assistance Center is Cassie Longhart. We are thrilled to be able to add Cassie as a business data analyst to the TAC. She brings with her incredible experience from the field where she is still active, and from the state data manager perspective, and from a really strong educational and research background. So we just are really excited to have Cassie join us. I'm going to throw her NEMSIS email in the chat. So if you're so inclined and you want to send Cassie a welcome email, you are absolutely welcome to do that. And she will be with us on future calls. She just had a previous engagement this morning. So just wanted to let everybody know that exciting news as well. And I think that's completely it for me, Ben.
Well, with that, I will turn it over to Laurel for 2 items.
All right, thanks, Ben. I'll keep mine short and sweet. So our maintenance update, the maintenance window is next Tuesday and Wednesday. Our plan is to do some updates, but there shouldn't be any impact to our outward facing services. It'll all sort of just entirely be internal. You'll never even notice. There should be no interruptions to submissions or anything like that. If you do notice any problems at any time, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know, and we'll do what we can to make sure that we get you connected to whatever you're missing. And then my next item is just a quick demo of the help desk. So let's see, let me share my screen. We'll walk through it. All right, so hopefully you're seeing the NEMSIS website right now. So if you need some help from us, you can go click on this support button. And from there, you can click on NEMSIS TAC Help Desk, or you can click the Submit a Help Desk ticket in our footer. And that will take you to our help desk, where you can pick what kind of request you have and basically just go from there. This is great because it'll make sure that you're connected with the best person to help you. So if you put in a request for software vendors and you need help with compliance testing, they'll make sure that you get connected with Jen. If you have a different question, like help the web service is broken, they'll connect you with me so I can help you with the more technical questions. And it's the same for all of our topics. research questions, we can make sure those get routed to the right person so they're answered as quickly as possible. So you just go ahead and put in your information about what your request is and then hit send and you'll get connected with one of us. And again, that is on the NMSIS page. You can go to support, help desk, or just submit a help desk ticket in the footer. And that's all I've got. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Laurel. And now we will turn it over to Lauri for 2 items.
Thanks, Ben. And I'm going to share my screen if you don't mind here. We're going to start with some introductions. And we have done this one other time. It's something new we're trying. And essentially our goal in this is that we can spend a few minutes on each of these calls, letting you know who you are next to in these little square boxes. You see people's names, or maybe you hear them ask questions, but we want to introduce you to your coworkers that may be state data managers in other states or software vendors in other states, and give you a little bit of background information that you may not know about them. So hopefully you can learn something new about others on this call, build some points of connection that can also lead to collaboration. We know we've seen some great connections form with newer state data managers that we've collected with some more seasoned veterans as mentors. And we hope to be able to do that even more because we know you can learn more from each other often than you can from us or than you can on a call like this. And then also to have a little fun. So I'm going to introduce our stakeholder today. And this person, when asked a question about how they like to relax or unwind, they said they like to read or sew, do embroidery, and shop. So be thinking of who you may know that this is describing. Something interesting about them is that they were actually a medical office manager for 20 years. And what they like best about their job, they like helping and educating their customers. Any guesses? If you have a guess, you can type a name in the chat who you think I'm describing. See if anyone guesses correctly.
Laurel.
And our stakeholder today is Wendy Miller. So Wendy works with EMS Charts and Zoll as a NMSIS implementation consultant. And she shared some pictures here of her doing some quilting and also of her daughter's wedding this fall, and her husband and son are in that picture as well. So I will share Wendy's contact information in the chat in just a moment if you want to reach out to her. But Wendy, do you want to wave and say hello?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for joining us today and sharing a little bit about yourself. We appreciate that.
Thank you for the highlight.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season.
Thanks, Wendy. We appreciate your...
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your involvement and support. And the second thing I was going to talk about today, I'm going to just slide the screen on over, is to give a quick update on our states that are transitioning to the version 3.5. You can see here all of the green states have made that transition. And I just was on a call and a meeting this morning with Louisiana, and they are going to be our next state, it looks like, turning green later this week. So congratulations to Louisiana. And thank you also to all the software vendors that are working behind the scenes to help states with this transition. I asked for some feedback from Louisiana this morning of how the transition went, and they said it was much easier than the 3.4 transition, and it seemed to go smoother. So that's our hope and our goal. But just know we are here to help you and support you. So please reach out if you have questions. And then there's several other states, the purple states, are probably in the process. It means we've received some version 3.5 resources from them, updated state data sets or schematrons, and they're likely to start receiving 3.5 records soon. So be looking for that. And then I also wanted to just mention another reminder that if you can look on your state page if you are a state data manager and see towards the bottom, we have a intended transition time, and it's usually given in quarters of the year. And if that has changed or needs to be updated for you, if you can email myself or anyone on the TAC or submit a help desk ticket, and we can change that if it needs to be updated. I know that is helpful to software vendors to be able to see what your intended transition timeframe is. That's all I have. Any questions? Okay, thanks. I'll pass it back to you, Ben.
All right. And then we will actually hand things over to Monet for new DataSet guides.
Sorry, I actually do have a question about 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Lauren Hogg from Zoll. So recently we found 2 states or 3 that are going to have cutover dates. So our concern with that is that we weren't aware of some of those expected transition dates. So some of our agencies have to have those technical upgrades in order for that to occur. And some of them are more time consuming depending on what product you have, especially if you don't have a SaaS product. So it is kind of difficult to meet some of those deadlines. So I just wanted to ask from the states that if we could possibly verbally or an email just confirm with somebody at each vendor that they've received those transition dates. And also it'd be really helpful if we had some sort of a 90-day transition window from that date, if at all possible. And then just to ask from NEMSIS is maybe to keep that spreadsheet up to date and add a column with hard cutoff dates or agency transition expected dates. That would be really helpful for the vendor side. Sorry, that's a lot.
That's okay. No, thanks, Lauren. That's great to hear. And that's good feedback. We appreciate that.
Hey, Lauri, this is Karen Jacobson with South Dakota. Can I respond?
Yes.
I will be reaching out to all of the software companies that operate in South Dakota. South Dakota is one that has a hard cutoff date, and that date is March 31st, 2023. You'll expect something from me no later than early next week. I'm actually hoping to get it all done by Friday. But yeah, work with us. We know that the information that's currently up on the South Dakota page is probably really concerning when you see 191 custom elements. There will be 70 true custom elements, just so you know, 34 of which are enforced by rules. So I'll be working with Lance to provide some updated documentation with regards to that, but communicate directly with us. We will work with you. Thanks so much.
Okay, and if it is possible for any of the states on here today, if you do have any hard cutover dates or expected transition dates, can you put them in the chat so the vendors on here can start preparing in advance for those?
That's a great suggestion. Thanks, Lauren.
Lauri, I think that one thing that we found in dealing with all this is we can get sort of planned go live times, but go live time and hard cutoff dates are completely different, right?
Yeah.
Depending on, your state vendor, your plans, how you instituted everything. And so if we can add a column or even something to the page that helps let us know and keep track of this state will not allow for 3.4 or 3.3.4 as of this date. That'd be a lot more helpful than currently.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I can bring that back to my team and talk about that. Thanks, Keenan.
We had started a discussion last week about kind of related to this. If you had it, not sure if it's on the agenda here, but something about indicators of when are they able to accept 3.5, and then the other end here seems to be when do they stop accepting 3.4 and things like that, and when their materials in the repository should be used as opposed to not used yet.
A lot of that really has to be communicated from the states. One of the things that we're limited too with what we post on our page and what we keep up to date. Anytime that we're notified or information is updated, we get it out onto the site and try to make sure we keep them as up to date as possible. We just need to get the information here to the TAC. So as the states have that information, if they send it to us, we are definitely wanting to get that out there to make it easier on the vendors, to give them a source to go to. Any information you send in, we will try and get out there for you. It's really hard to try and put that into the schema or have the TAC be responsible for that, because it can change on the state level and we may not know. It really is a limitation to what the TAC can provide that way.
Mm-hmm. That's why I really wanted to bring it up here with all the states, because, it's not always on the vendor side. The agencies have to be ready to upgrade, which is going to include training all their providers. So there's going to be some that don't meet the deadlines, which is why also asking for the 90-day transition is so imperative. There's customers that do have states like January 1st is going to be really hard to get people upgraded, trained, and do all that over the holidays. Not to mention the first fall is like on a weekend, and there's going to be limited support for some people. So just to take all those things into consideration, and to get with your vendor as early as possible and just confirm it, because some of those email blasts and things that go to the customers don't always make it to the right people at the vendor. And I think, like everyone's saying, the hard cutoff is definitely the most impactful. So those are the ones that we definitely need to know about in advance.
Yeah, I think NEMSIS is the only place where that can be managed effectively. So like she said, the mailing list is kind of hit or miss, whether it reaches everybody that needs to know. And so obviously that has to come from the states. But I think NEMSIS managing those, putting those in some place that we can access it would be extremely helpful.
I agree with David. I understand what you're saying, Jen, with every state has the right to do their own thing. But at the end of the day, we also have to juggle 50 states and the territories. And finding out, 2 weeks before because a customer told us it's not sustainable through the transition of all of the customers.
This is Sushil from Forte Holdings. I completely agree with that. It's so hard to know at the last minute, because there's, as someone mentioned, there are other edge systems that we work with, which accept a lot of NEMSIS files. For example, billing systems. They also need to transition to NEMSIS 3.5 from NEMSIS 3.4 and need to coordinate with them on the hard cutoff date.
And so
in the end, this is all coming down to just communications, and everyone doing their best to keep folks aware. We do have the spreadsheet, and like Lauri said, we can take it back to the team about adding columns to the spreadsheet of information that we do have if we have additional stuff to add. And we're definitely going to try and I definitely try to keep the vendors in the loop. The TAC tries to keep the vendors in the loop, as well as all of the states, as much as we can, for sure.
All right. Great discussion. Thank you all. I'm going to keep things moving and hand it off to Monet about new dataset guides.
Okay, thank you so much. Fantastic. Can you allow me to share, please?
Try now.
I'm sorry?
You should be able to share now.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. All right, that was a great discussion. Season's greetings, everyone. I want to share with you a new resource, and I'm going to also add the information to the chat. excuse me. So the request came from Ann Vosbrink from Arizona for a document that explains the data sets in layman's terms. And hopefully this will be a great resource for you to share with your clinicians and others as they're transitioning to 3.5. So the way we're going to find the document is go to Using EMS Data, NMSIS 101. And then we have a tab here that says Understanding NMSIS V35. And it's going to scroll us down to this NMSIS guide to the data sets. And so what we decided to do here is to create the infographic, a infographic that links to educational documents in plain language that will better describe the purpose of the state data set, the EMS data set, and the DIM data set, and how the agencies will use them to configure their systems. And so I'm a visual person. I thought this would be a great way to help communicate the information and show the connection between these three data sets. And so if you click on the description here for the state data set, it's going to work for me. Okay, so we have a white paper here. This document was created by Josh Legler. It was actually created for the 3.4 standard and then updated to represent the changes in 3.5. It's just a few pages long, but what we're trying to do is really explain how these data sets are intended to be utilized by the stakeholders. And then we have a DIM data set guide as well. I'm the primary author on this document, but we're trying to address this concern where we have inconsistencies between the DIM files and the EMS files. And hopefully this will provide some additional clarity on what is expected for the DIM file. And then I'm going to go back and we're going to look at the last document, which is the EMS data set document. And this document has several authors. And again, the intent is to explain how to configure these data sets. If you look through these guides and you find that there's any information that's confusing or that can be clarified, please feel free to reach out to us so we can continue to modify these documents. We are also very happy to receive requests such as the one we received from Ann, so that we can make documents that will be helpful for you and can be utilized and shared at the state level, at the local level. Now, I love when people share information with me. Sharing is the best gift. And so please feel free to share these documents and other resources. And if you have a need for resources, let us know. If you have any questions about any of this material, will you please use that help desk ticket and send us a question, and then we will try to get back to you at our earliest convenience. Are there currently any questions now? All right, well, thank you so much for your time. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll turn it back to you, Ben.
All right, thank you. And we're going to head over to Jen for 2 items.
Good morning. I am hopefully going to share my screen. I have a couple of items. The first one, I'm kind of actually hoping to get some feedback from the vendors, state data managers, any agencies that are on the phone. We've had a couple of questions come up lately with tracking rollover in the e-injury 05 element, which is where the initial impact of the vehicle is recorded. It is based on the MUC clock, the 12-hour clock here. And so the question was brought up, since it's an integer, how are people notating that it's a rollover incident where they may not have the initial impact area, especially when maybe a rule has been made to require e-injury 05 on a motor vehicle collision. And so we're hoping to get some feedback and back and forth with you folks on the phone about it. Is there anybody who'd like to share what they're doing locally or within their software for rollovers?
Jen, it's Josh. I did some analysis on this comparing MUC to NEMSIS last year. I'm just trying to find my notes on that because I recommended updating this element in NEMSIS to capture all the values allowed by MUC. So I'm just trying to look up those values now and see what was in there.
Yeah, actually have.
Okay, so look for V19, element V19 in MUC.
It's V19?
Yeah, V as in Victor. Yeah. So they have the 12-point clock diagram. That's one piece of it. And then they have all these other areas. So the initial contact point on vehicle, I think, is what ENDRI 05 is trying to get. And so in addition to the 12 points, then they had the top, the undercarriage, the cargo loss, and unknown. So those are the values that NEMSIS does not currently support. So for my analysis, my thought was that ENDRI 05 should probably support the clock diagram plus those handful of additional values for initial contact point.
So Josh, since it's a state element, not a national element. So if they were trying to document a rollover in that field, would you just how would you use initial contact point of vehicle to specify rollover?
Yeah, good point. Maybe this wouldn't be the element for that then.
And if I remember correctly, version 2 actually had the 3 points within V19, the damaged area and the extent of the damage. Is that something we need to consider? And I know the idea of adding elements makes everyone cringe, but is that maybe something that we need to consider putting back in?
Yeah, so looking a little more in MUC has element V21, which is the most harmful event for this motor vehicle. And that's where they include rollover as one of their options. And NEMSIS doesn't really have an element that's equivalent to that, I don't think.
Do any of the states or vendors want to share how they're collecting information specific to rollover?
Hey, this is Joe from New Hampshire, and we do kind of both. I mean, we have the value that you're talking about for like rollovers, but then we also have like cause of injury, which that cause of injury is a lot of those items I'm seeing on these bullet points here. So for us, it would really be a we're able to get that information currently by using those two elements kind of combined to get these attributes that they're listing under V21 there.
Thanks, Joe. Is there anyone else that would like to share? Is there a vendor out there that has created custom values for ENDRI 05 for rollover?
Jen, I'm sure we've created some custom values. I would be happy to share that with you guys in a spreadsheet. I can get that to you, Jen.
That would be great. Thank you.
Happy to do it.
And maybe it's important to kind of tie this back to, I think, some of the increased focus that we'll see over the next year or so for some of the traffic specific descriptors will be closely related to a funding opportunity that you probably heard us discuss previously for the National Roadway Safety Strategy funding opportunity. And so I think maybe agencies perhaps haven't focused so much on some of this documentation related to vehicle descriptors, but I think for the states, it'll be kind of important going forward for this forthcoming funding opportunity. Sorry, just figured I'd tie it back in as to why you might see more of this and why it might be kind of important.
You know, my favorite thing is to tie anything to money.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way to do it. So are there any other states that have done something specific or use the NMSIS data in a specific way, like Joe was describing, combining it with the cause of injury to find the rollovers? Okay, well, you'll see if, I don't know how many folks go in and look at the NEMPUB site where we list the different suggestions for revisions that'll be considered. Take a look and see what's there for e-injury 05 or for motor vehicle collisions. And if you have any ideas that you just don't want to share on the phone, please feel free to email them to me or submit them via the IT help desk that Laurel demonstrated earlier. And, you know, we'd love to hear from you. We want to do it in an effective way. Any change that we suggest that works for everyone if possible, or as many as possible. Let me just check the chat really quick. Nope, okay. So I also have the next item on it, which is the new updated account, user account policy. So you guys are aware that we made some changes not too long ago. Every 6 months, any account that is not utilized at least once within that 6-month period will be locked out. There's now a new addition, which requires a password reset every 90 days. So you may want to update your tickler to go in and remind yourself to update your password. And if you do that every 90 days, you don't have to worry about that 6-month period. There was also a question about requesting an account. There's a few different ways to do it. And the account policy, the user account policy, also resides in these places. On the reports that some of you will run, the vendor, the state, and the agency reports, there is always the policy and a way to click and request the account. It is also located on the FAQs, which is what is NMSIS frequently asked questions. Who may acquire a NMSIS account for state level, and then it has the request that can take you to that. And then here is the request of the NMSIS account. And again, the user account policy here will be the most up-to-date policy. So we're just recommending that everyone remember to go in at least every 90 days and get that password reset. Are there any questions about that? Perfect. I'm going to hand it back to you, Ben.
All right. We are actually going to head over to John Beckett for an ET3 update.
All right, thanks, Ben. Let me just quickly share my screen. There we go. And I just want to give a few updates for ET3. We are pretty happy with the participation in terms of submission, data submission that we're seeing. We've got about 159 active ET3 participants. And that just means that we're seeing data coming in, flowing in for them on a regular basis. That constitutes about 18 million records that we've accumulated since the start of the program. About 5.5 of those are historical records. And then obviously we have calendar year 2021, and we're just about to close out the 2022. The December 2022 PCRs are due at the end of January. So we'll wait until they get in before we actually close the year out and provide us a good count of what we received. In terms of communications, we've got several things, newsletters, webinars, classrooms. These are things that we are planning to support next year and have started some of that this year. We had a really nice ET3 custom element seminar back in October that went very well. And thank you for the TAC and participating as well as supporting us in that. In terms of upcoming items, we do plan to support the version 3.5 transition. We have a testing environment already set up, and we have a testing cycle that's targeted for April, where we'll be inviting a number of vendors in. They can send us their transmissions, and we'll provide you support in terms of if there's any issues around submitting using version 3.5. So that is coming up. Just on a note of other communications, we have a monthly dashboard report that we send out to participants. We are doing that via email, and we have completed about 8 of those this year. We had to skip September, mainly because we wanted to make some updates to our data collection process internally. However, we're back on track with the October, November, and we obviously have December that's coming. In the December one, we're going to implement something called the partial submission status. And what that will basically allow for us to do is indicate to the participant whether we have seen a partial submission or a complete submission of their PCR records. And our approach to doing that is just really looking at the claims that have come in and matching those up with the PCRs so that we can see that there is a claim that went along with that PCR record. And obviously, if we don't see the PCR record available for a claim, that would constitute a partial submission. So just wanted to explain that for folks who might see that in the upcoming MDR in December. We're also planning a next set of quality metrics. We're excited about that. So look out for that. So that will be included in the MDR. So those will be, again, something that's been asked for and I think will be well received. On the operational side, just real quick, we are planning tomorrow an outage that'll happen between 5 and 9 o'clock Eastern time. You should have received notices. All the participants and vendors would have received those. And again, there's no more planned outages for the rest of the year. And then just to wrap up, we've got a consistent number of participants who are giving us monthly submissions. Claims are being submitted, as well as getting proper usage of the ET3 custom elements. So that's pretty much the update. And if there's any questions or comments. All right, Benjamin, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yep.
I don't know if Eric was able to make it. Clay, I'm going to turn it over to you for an ONDCP dashboard status update, I think.
Great. Happy to do that. I'll share my screen just real quickly. Folks may know that last week, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy released the ONDCP non-fatal opioid overdose dashboard went live with a great news release by Dr. Gupta and leaders from NHTSA. So the dashboard is now live on the website. And when it went live last week on Thursday, there were over 70 large news outlets that picked up Dr. Gupta's remarks and ran with the story. We, over this last weekend, had about 14,000 EMS or hits to this dashboard, to NEMSIS. And so I think it's been incredibly well received. We've read through a number of the news outlets and editorial comments that have come up in regards to this dashboard. in the New York Times, the Washington Post. There were great editorials and comments related to the fact that this is the first time ever that states are able to track the opioid overdose with non-fatal data, right? So in the past, they've relied on fatal data, death certificate data that is collected by the CDC. And even their provisional data is at least 6 months old. So it was very hard to actually provide, actually the ability to track what's happening within counties and within states in a more real-time situation, right? The data was always so dated. This report, we hold the data for 2 weeks before we present it. So it's really up to date as of the last 2 weeks. And so that, and I think makes it much more real time and valuable for states and for folks working on the front lines of the opioid overdose to see what's happening in counties within their state. So lots of great press, lots of great comments that have come out related to this first venue with a White House level dashboard using NEMSIS data. Would love to open it up to see if vendors or states have had any other comments or criticisms that we could help with. I'm sure that there will probably be additional requests within states for data specific to areas, right? If someone who's working the front lines of the opioid overdose sees that their county is high, they can't pull numbers, they can't pull counts or rates in any form for their states or counties from this dashboard. So they may be more likely to reach out to state EMS data managers. Would love to hear any comments that folks might have about this rollout.
The scale there doesn't give any numbers. So what does lower, near national, higher mean numerically?
Yeah. So there's a companion document that goes along with this dashboard, and they're able to kind of see how we calculate lower than average, near average, above average.
Could that be on the dashboard? I think it makes, as a separate document, I think it greatly reduces the utility.
Yeah. Thank you, David. We've had a couple of comments in that regard, and so we've been kind of toying with the idea of how to make this language more understandable. So that's a good idea, David. Thank you.
And what does mean? Because is this like per 1,000 of people of population, but mean of what?
Yeah, and that's kind of described here, whether it be the 28 days rolling or the rolling 365, but we could make this clearer.
Okay, so it's just a straight number of overdoses.
Yeah. The average, right. Yeah, it's just the average of all states or average of all counties. Yep. Or the nation over this period of time. Yep.
If X greater than 2X, that's kind of confusing.
Yeah, we'll work on this, David. We're trying to redo this language a little bit, and we're going to replace the term mean with average as well. So there's been some good comments as to how we can clean this up.
Okay, and then how did you pick 10%? Is that some kind of measurement standard?
That's a great question. That's what ONDCP asked that we do in regards to setting up these color bands.
Okay.
Yeah, they came up with the criteria. So it may be related to something that the CDC is putting out or something. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Any other comments? Are states receiving requests for specific data for specific areas within their states? Oh, yes. Oh, thanks. Julianne has posted a bunch of the news releases in the chat.
Can I add just a little comment here? As we get requests for counts, we've received a lot of requests for the underlying counts. We send all of those, we redirect all of those requests directly to the states. So we do encourage people who want more information on it pertaining to a specific state or to a specific county to reach out directly to that state, as they are the source of truth for the EMS counts specific to their areas.
All right. Well, thank you. If you receive other comments or would like assistance in responding to a request for data in some way, we stand ready to help either the vendor side or the state side with any questions you may receive related to the dashboard. And again, thank you for the early reviews of the dashboard. ONDCP received a really quick education when participating in those calls. Many of you participated and provided comments that was incredibly helpful. So thank you for kind of making this all be able to come together as it did in a real meaningful way. Thank you.
All right, Clay, we're actually going to stick with you for the next two items about the overview for a funding opportunity.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can share here quickly, if that's okay. Thank you. Yeah, so just want folks to know about a funding opportunity that has closed, but I wanted to make sure that I'm sure many folks have seen this, but wanted to I just provide some background into what we saw in regards to applicants who were submitting applications for funding. So this is a request for funding through the national academies. It was the proposals were due last week. It closed on December 9th. We worked with 4 different groups who were submitting applications. And so hopefully one of those or ones that we didn't see will be funded. The purpose of this funding opportunity is to provide some educational materials and some other products that will help with the utilization of the NEMSIS UUID and linking it to other data sets. So we've talked about this for a long time, right? About the fact that the UUID could be exchanged within software products without being visible to the users that would link together EMS data with trauma registry data within hospitals. NHTSA has been talking a lot about how could we link EMS data to the MUC data collection, so the crash reporting system. How could they utilize the UUID to bring together the EMS run form with the documentation that police on scene will collect about the crash. So this project is really geared toward, you can read through the task, it's really geared towards making sure that there's a landing spot for the UUID in all of these different data collection systems to ensure that the EMS data can flow more efficiently into these other record systems, whether it be a hospital record system or the National Trauma Data Bank or the MUC system. But they also propose down here to have a trial period where several agencies or several states with many agencies would participate in kind of a trial process of being able to ensure that the data can actually come from a 3.5 record into the state system or into the hospital system, and then that those records could be combined. So I just make note of that. I think if you are a state or if you are a vendor that would be interested in participating in a trial system that would be funded to actually see if if these type of exchanges can be done efficiently and effectively. If you'd let us know, 3 of the 4 applicants that we worked with had not kind of prepared in advance the group that they would ask to be participating in that trial period, but they did ask us to provide some information regarding who might be, which states might have moved to version 3.5 by the beginning date for this proposal, which is March of 2023. So if you have interest, if you'd let us know, we'd be happy to, once a decision is made as to who will be funded to go through this project, we'll try to keep this group very closely aligned with what they're doing. And if there's those that want to participate in the trial period, would be happy to propose that. All right, and then Ben, what was the other item I was supposed to cover? Oh,
closure of the 2022 data set.
The closure. Yeah. Just want to mention that quickly. We announced that, Lauri announced that about a month ago, and wow, thank you to the vendors and to the states who heard that call and submitted much data to us. We had one day where we received 500,000 records in one day. So wow, I'm very impressed with just how close we are to complete reporting. The official closure date is February 17th, but wow, we're feeling like everyone will meet that. Everyone is working so hard to make sure that we have all the records. We've had over 52 million EMS activations submitted to us during the calendar year of 2022. And about 47 million of those events occurred during 2022. The others were historical, but it's really clear that folks heard the call for data, and I think we'll be really in good shape to close and prepare the 2022 data set for research use in February. So thank you. I think that's all I had, Ben.
All right, great. Let's see here. And I'm not sure if there are any items from the Office of EMS. Jeremy, if you had any updates or anything you'd like to share from NHTSA.
Yeah, I was just looking to see, I guess Eric didn't have a chance to jump on. I'm guessing he's busy with another meeting or is just caught up, but yeah, no big updates from our end at this point. I think just it's been great to just be here today for the meeting and again, hear about all the progress and great work that everyone's been doing, and just hope everyone has a nice holiday.
Great. Yeah, thank you. There will be no public training in December with the holidays. And with that, we will move into open forum. So I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about anything else, any other concerns anyone else had.
Just to slightly revisit the state status that we were talking about earlier, you mentioned a spreadsheet about that. I guess you're keeping track of some stuff. I'm not sure where to find that on the site. Is that available?
It is available. It is on the website under the V35 resources. Let me share again really quick. Hang on. Right. So if you go here, sorry about that. And you go to the V350 revision items. There's a state and vendor transition plan spreadsheet. You will have to download it. And I'll just throw that on my desktop really quick. And it will have each of the states and the last piece of data that they have provided to us. And then for software vendors, you did receive a Google form to fill out a couple of months ago, and all of that is here. And then as you go through testing, it'll get updated. As you pass, you'll be removed from the list. Or if you let me know that you've entered into testing, that'll be updated as well. And then there were a few that said, we're not going to, and so they were taken off. So that is a good place to find it as a single source. And then it is also, of course, available on the state pages themselves.
Okay, so this isn't quite enough for what we were talking about. So So for example, I think this is the case, right, Josh, that Oregon is ready to receive version 3.5 data. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So this one, this spreadsheet doesn't quite indicate that.
Right, David. That's was a great conversation at the beginning of the call. That's the spreadsheet that we will talk about this week and add columns to and ensure we update. But you're right, David. We need to. I think we've learned some good information on the early on this call to make some changes to that document, make it more useful.
Okay. So what columns should we expect to have been added by next week?
I think we talked about, we'll put it back out for review so that states can update not only a go live date, but also if there was a hard cutoff date, folks wanted that added. And lots of states provided a lot of that information on the call in the chat. So we'll mine everything out of the chat and then ask states to update those two columns. Are there other columns that folks would like added other than a go live date and a cutoff date for 3.4?
I saw this mentioned earlier in the chat that it would be really nice to have a last updated date.
Okay. Yep. Great. Yeah. Thank you, Samantha.
I'd say, are you currently accepting? So what version or versions are you currently accepting?
Okay. Between 3.4 and 3.5, David, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Jen and TAC team, why don't you pull up the South Dakota page real quick? I'm wondering if the information that we requested that the TAC add for South Dakota, I know that's on each page and not on a spreadsheet, but if you open up the South Dakota page and then go to the very bottom.
So here.
Yep. So if everybody just takes a quick minute to read that, whether this type of information would be helpful to vendors.
Well, yeah, that's the information that we want. But like you said, I'm reading 50 pages, weekly is probably not going to scale too well.
Right. So these are the type of columns that we could add to the Excel spreadsheet. It looks like everything is represented here that was talked about. Let's see, a last update date. Well, we'll review this carefully. Thank you, Karin. This is a great example of the data I think that would be valuable to have in that Excel spreadsheet.
And could I suggest not an Excel spreadsheet, something a little more machine friendly?
Yeah, and what would that be, David?
JSON, HTML page. Something doesn't need a library to parse it.
We can take that back to the team and discuss other options for that, and also what the time frame would be for renewing that. We are limited to what the states are willing to share and fill out for that data. So this is great conversation. We'll take it all back and see if we can make it more useful for the vendors and look at what our options are there.
Yeah, great ideas, great comments. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely, if states can be encouraged, even from the vendor side, to send out updates through NEMSIS TAC, I think that's for everybody's best interests. We've had some places where they say that we have updated our list, but we just didn't care about updating NEMSIS. I'm like, well, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, David.
Yes, there are states that do maintain their own page for the state. So that's a really good point, David, that it's always good to double check those state pages sometimes too.
Anything else for the open forum?
Yes. Hi, I'm Stephen with EPR Systems. As of January 1st, the INFRS reporting will no longer receive COVID special study information for incident reporting in all states. Has there been any discussion at NMSIS about continuing or ending the collection of COVID-related EPCR questions like vaccination status, et cetera?
That's a great question, Stephen. We didn't receive at a national level or federal level the types of mandates that fire service did. So I think all of the added COVID elements that we developed as national custom elements early on in the pandemic were all elected to be used by states at their
right, at their discretion.
At their discretion. We didn't have any mandates, I think, on our end.
Okay, so it's more of a state question, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet, Stephen. Thank you.
Kelly asked in the chat if there was an update regarding the ACS trauma triage values, or is the TAC going to implement a critical patch for those?
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, we continue to actively work on that. Josh has done a great job. And if folks are interested in looking at what we have been putting together, working with the committee on trauma at the American College of Surgeons, we've talked to them about how we potentially plan to modify E-Injury 03 and E-Injury 04 to accept the new 2021 trauma triage criteria. We've presented to them our potential changes and our potential mapping to allow legacy data to still be of use. They have approved all of the front-facing values, how those would be presented, and we have a meeting set with them next week to actually review with them how we plan to map to the legacy data. We'll continue to move forward, and there still is the plan to have a critical patch available in the spring of 2023 to implement those changes to E-Injury 03, E-Injury 04. We haven't come up with a hard date for that yet. We're working on that here at the NMSIS TAC to come up with those dates, and we'll hopefully be able to provide those in the next couple of weeks. Now, Kelly, I know I sent you the working document that the American College of Surgeons is reviewing. If anybody else would like to see that document to have kind of a heads up as to how the element might look, we're happy to share that. It is draft, but it would give you kind of a heads up if you're interested. Just let us know through chat. We'll send it to you.
Clay, can you send it out via Google Groups?
Yeah, we thought about that. Our Google group has so many different audiences associated with it over the years, and we haven't really subgrouped the Google group. We've talked about doing that. There was concern about sending a draft across with such a wide audience that it may be thought of as final or some of their problems with that. So I'm not sure how to do that. I know the DMC has been able to see it, but Karin, happy to send it to you. I'm not sure exactly how to send it out. We do have a list of vendors, and we have a list of state data managers. We could certainly send it through all those channels. Happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that might be beneficial.
Okay.
I'm working with a couple of states, and I know both of those states would be interested in having that just kind of as a knowledge, that pre-knowledge.
Yes.
Values would be available, because I know, most of the software vendor community would probably be able to add the values, quote unquote, now sooner rather than later as they transition to V3.5. So it'd be beneficial. So thank you.
Until it's final, we will be very cautious about wide distribution. We'd hate to see states and vendors do development work and then have that draft change. So we're just trying to be really cautious about widespread distribution of a draft that's still under advisement from the ACS group.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly and Kern. Great questions.
Any other topics for open forum? All right. The next meeting is December 28th, and then we have 2 in January, same time, same place. And thank you all for your participation. Please reach out if you have any questions or need anything else. And thank you all, and have a good Wednesday.